The disturbing and controversial video game Iceberg. Let's see what's so disturbing about this.
On the first tier, we're going to be looking at a lot of the more popular titles, things that either garnered a lot of attention with the media, or things that are just kind of bizarre or abstract in their creation to begin with. Beginning with our first title, Eravos, or Eravos, or how.
I usually imagine myself to know most of what's going on in video game icebergs because I'm a massive nerd and I don't go outside and I'm terminally online. I have no idea what Eravos is. I saw a few of the other things on the first tier and I thought, yeah, no, I get this. I'm gonna be totally down with this. What in God's name is this?
You're supposed to pronounce this. So when I went through and picked this Iceberg, like I said in the beginning, I have rules for why I added stuff, but really I just put something on here if I found it interesting. Because why talk about something that bores me, right?
Yeah.
So this one, I'll be completely level with you, isn't disturbing at all. This is just a really weird concept that I've never heard.
Have we been baited?
I had to tell someone. So
all right, what are you going to see?
You play as a vampire who is trying to kill a vampire hunter cult, to my understanding. It was developed by Greek studio NYX and published in 2002 for the PC.
I like that. It's like a reverse version of what you usually imagine to see. Also, this is what the gameplay looks like because you can't see because my dumb, massive, stupid head is blocking it. But I like that we have a reversal. Usually, you're the vampire hunter, like slay them, stop them from doing bad things. Being the vampire instead is kind of cool.
Some consider this game to be disturbing because it uses real photographs of actors, something that was much more common in the early 2000s.
I do think this is kind of freaky though. Using real actors and real people superimposed on like a video game landscape gives this really uncanny valley feeling that I don't like.
Games, and it features some kind of bloody depictions of those actors being killed. That's not what I find interesting about this game at all. What's interesting about this game is that, if you'll remember, you play as a vampire, right? So if you try to turn on the game when it's still daylight, wherever you live, whatever time zone you have set, the game won't let you play it because vampires aren't supposed to be out in the day.
No, that's awesome. That's how it should be. You open the game when it's sunlight. Oh, you died. Congratulations, idiot. But does it take into account weather conditions? What if it's a cloudy day? What if it's torrential rain? What if it's the part of the year where it gets dark really early? In the UK, it gets dark by about 3 and 4 p.m. in wintertime. That means I can go outside because I'm a vampire. Does it take all this into account? It should.
Instead, giving you this error message. So it is a video game that can exclusively be played either by changing the date and time on your system or wait for nightfall. And yeah, insert joke about gamers only come out at night, haha. But in reality, while interesting, while I think it's kind of cute or whatever, this is one of the worst ideas I have ever heard. You're going to a pitch now to try to sell your product, and you have to tell them that the product is only accessible for half of the buyer's lifetime. The game never garnered a lot of popularity.
Also, most people go to bed at night. So I would imagine for most people's schedules between 11 p.m. and midnight to like 6 a.m., they're not going to be playing the game anyway. It's not like you're going to be so hyped about the vampire hunter hunting game. You're going to be like, yo, let's stay up until 3 a.m. to play this bad boy. This isn't Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It's not a high quality game that's going to keep you going all night long.
Outside of a small cult following. And I've never seen this concept done again, to my knowledge, and there's good reason for that. And while I don't consider the game to be disturbing at all, I found this in research, and I wasn't going to not talk about it. So
imagine a movie that was in cinema, but you could only watch it at 2 a.m. In theory, oh, that's cool. Like, it's a vampire movie. You can only see it in cinema at 2 a.m. In reality, oh man, it's 2 a.m. I don't know. I've got like work tomorrow. It's pretty late. Like we get out at like 3:30. I don't know if I could swing that one today. It's a bit late. I'm always a bit tired now. It's like 10. I'm kind of tired. I don't know if I want to go to that.
Our first real entry, we have
PETA
Flash games. So a lot of you are probably familiar with PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. And a lot of you are also probably familiar with the shenanigans they get up to at animal protest. While a lot of us are familiar that PETA always has a strange way to protest for the rights of animals, a lot of you may not know that they developed a series of Flash games to protest as well.
It is crazy the damage that PETA has done for animal rights. Like, they were literally formed. They're the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals. And you could see, even in the chat, as soon as the name was brought up, everyone says, oh god, boo, this guy stinks. They have done such irrevocable damage to animal rights activists. It is insane. Also, I remember playing these games on my main channel, the Pokemon one specifically, and at no point did I think, wow, I should be vegetarian. I thought, whoa, a really gory, bloody Pokemon game could be a fun idea, actually.
And they can be accessed from PETA's website. This includes games like Whole Lotta Lies, where you play as a pig in a slaughterhouse who is trying to escape from the slaughterhouse workers. You can also speak to other pigs who are afraid of what's to come and think that the end is near. The message of the game being that while you can run for a really long time, the game always ends the same way, with you being caught and killed by the workers in the slaughterhouse.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess that kind of sucks, but to be honest, pigs can't speak, so it's not really that realistic, is it?
There's Monkey Fright, where you play as a monkey in a laboratory trying to free other monkeys and evade scientists, which, as someone who tried to play it, I can say is the worst platform controls I have ever seen.
Wait, what happened to the monkey? He just got
I can say
released,
is the worst,
and he flexed and then vaporized. If he could teleport, why did the monkey not just leave earlier? This tells me that the monkey wanted to be in the cage, and only when was released from the cage, they teleported into the ether. So either the cage has some mysterious anti-teleportation magics baked into it, they did ritual sacrifices to make the cage impossible to teleport out of, or maybe the monkey wanted to be there.
Cage Fight, a beat 'em up with horrible hit detection that has you go through settings like a military base and a research facility while fighting doctors and soldiers to release all of the imprisoned animals. And of course, my favorite by far, J-Lo, Monster in Fur, which is a game that has you running from Jennifer Lopez as she tries to stop you from educating people on the dangers of fur clothing, as well as freeing the animals that she plans to slaughter to make more fur coats.
I can't believe J-Lo would do this.
Incredible. How can you not love it?
I mean, that's pretty good. Wow, he didn't even mention the Pokemon ones. I'm surprised.
Some blood that is purposefully dramatic to get their point across. The real controversial element to the games is the fact that they exist in order to push their agenda. Which, if you agree with that agenda or not, is totally up to you. I just found out that PETA makes all these weird video games, and I had to tell you about it. LSD.
Yeah, I am actually surprised he didn't talk about the Pokemon ones, because they were the most famous ones. I don't remember any of these other ones, but I do remember the Pokemon ones very vividly. Maybe it's because I'm in the Pokemon community, but those were the ones I heard about. I'm surprised that Nintendo didn't do anything. They didn't fight PETA in the arena. And the thing is, they're not necessarily wrong in the message they're trying to push, which is like, oh, maybe we shouldn't slaughter animals in horrible, horrific ways, even though they have been known to kill animals as well, that maybe they didn't have to kill, so maybe ever so slightly hypocritical. They're not entirely wrong. It would be nice to get into a situation where we don't have to kill animals to eat in the future. I still like meat. I'm all for lab-grown meat. I'm totally down for that. I think that that's a great idea, and if it tastes the same and it's ethical, then awesome, fantastic. But they've done such damage to animal rights activists because everybody hates them. They just make everybody despise them, and if you despise a group that stands for a certain thing and is known for standing for a certain thing, then you then have a negative view towards the thing that they're standing for as well. So they're just kind of working against their own interests, which is just really strange, and I don't know what they're trying to achieve with this. All right, LSD Dream Emulator.
Dream Emulator, and yes, that is its real title, was made by Osamu Sato in 1998. Now, LSD Dream Emulator is outright a form of interpretive art. It doesn't try to be a standard video game. As a matter of fact, Osamu stated multiple times that he made this for people who do not enjoy or can't play standard video games. So LSD Dream Emulator was made for the PlayStation as a sort of art exhibit. The only real feature the game gives you besides a start menu
is a
on? Map that allows you to see what section of the dream you are currently located in, with the only objective, if you could even call it that, being to travel from one location to the other and simply experience the world you're in.
This looks like Cruelty Squad.
Osamu built the landscapes based on inspirations he had from his own lucid dreams, as
That's kind of cool.
Journals from those he knew.
What is going on?
Several people who see the game says that it gives them an intense feeling of familiarity, despite the incredibly alien format most of these worlds exist in. Given the drastic contrast between elements of the world that are known and elements that are staunchly unknown, many believe LSD Dream Emulator to be the first piece of media that really captured the horror of liminal spaces. And while I find
I was gonna say the Backrooms is basically just a liminal space, and that's essentially the same thing. So I mean, that's kind of weird. It's kind of cool though, I guess.
As it kind of exists as the grandfather to concepts of things like the Backrooms as we know them today. I also think this game is absolutely hilarious because it was made for the PlayStation 1, and while it never really saw distribution in the United States, it did see some level of attention in Japan. So there was probably a young child who turned on his PlayStation to play Crash Bandicoot or some jet ski game or whatever, and turned on this and was never the same person again. Night Trap was made...
I think they would more think it's boring than anything else. It just looks like a walk-in simulator where you just walk about this really strange-looking place, and then it changes into a really strange-looking place, and just walking around. I think a kid would get bored of this really, really, really quickly. But someone that's tripped, maybe they'd be super into it. Listen, I've never taken LSD. I haven't done that, so I have no idea whether or not it's accurate. But I'm sure that there's some kind of nostalgia that the people that have might have with this game.
1992 for the Sega CD. The game featured FMV cutscenes, which again was very popular at the time, not so much nowadays. In the game, you the player are eavesdropping on a girl's slumber party that is being attacked by vampires.
Vampires? Hold on, what? I was gonna say, I do remember Night Trap. I've seen so many videos on this. I think Game Grumps played Night Trap once. I never knew that you were just eavesdropping or spying on a sleeping party. That's so straight. Why? I mean, it was made in like the 90s. It was probably more acceptable back then. Everyone's like, yeah, that's awesome. Let's go.
To protect them, you have to move to the viewpoints of different cameras within the house and set off things like traps in order to stop the girls from being harmed. While I think this is a really cool idea, especially for the time, I can tell you that the plot or the acting is nothing to write home about. What made this game so controversial is that if you failed, your game over screen would typically be the death of one of the girls. Well, I mean, nothing to us cool kids that, grew up on Live Leak or whatever. This was a problem for a lot of parents at the time because in 1992, there was no rating system for video games. So at the 1993 committee hearing where they had the whole discussion of how video games should be regulated and what their rating system should be, Night Trap was brought up alongside titles like Mortal Kombat. And a lot of people attribute...
I mean, it's not nearly the same, okay? In one of the games, you're beating the absolute spine out of everyone. You're beating the livers and the pancreases out of people. In Night Trap, you're being a little bit of a peeping Tom. Which, actually, in today's day and age, it is more acceptable to beat the pancreas out of someone than to spy on someone. Interesting.
The B-movie-esque killings of Night Trap to the reason that you can't buy an M-rated game without your parents' permission. Again, not that disturbing by today's standards, or for adults at all really, but an important footnote in the history of disturbing media. The first entry of Postal, which was developed by Running with Scissors, was released in 1997. While there have been 4 entries in the series, Postal 2 is the one everyone remembers. The game allows players to go on mundane daily tasks.
Wait, the petition says put a bidet in everyone's home? Oh, that's actually a good idea though. Like, that's a great thing to have a petition for. I think every single toilet in every home in every nation should have a bidet. There is no reason why you shouldn't have a bidet on your home. In your toilet. Japan has the right idea. The Asian countries that use bidets, they all have the right idea. They're all incredibly smart. I have a bidet. I couldn't go back. I don't understand what's so crazy about it. What's crazy about washing yourself with water? I just don't understand. You wouldn't, if you got a little bit of shit on your arm, just wipe it off with paper and be like, that's all right. I just wipe it off. Yeah, no, that's probably fine now. You'd wash your arm. So why would you not do it in every part of your body? I don't understand.
Or cause a whole lot of havoc. If I had to describe Postal to someone who wasn't familiar with it, I would describe it as what boomers think GTA is. You know how you always hear on the news, they're like, oh, in GTA, the goal of the game is to run people over and then shoot them with guns and light them on fire.
No, guys, listen. The aim of GTA, as spoken by 70-year-old men on Fox News, is to get a hooker in your car, have sex with the hooker, then shoot them and take the money. That is what you do in GTA if you are a 70-year-old on Fox News.
And it's like, sure, you can do that, but that's not really like, what the game's about. In Postal, that is absolutely what the game is about. It's very satirical and very over-the-top in its presentation, but graphic nonetheless. Sure, a lot of games will let you set someone on fire or shoot them, but in Postal, you can pee on their corpse, which is really what it's all about. It's graphic and over the top because that's exactly what it sets out to be. And while we're on the topic of games that made the news lose their mind for a couple months whenever it came,
Man, this was huge in the UK. And by huge, I mean everyone was losing their minds. Playing Manhunt was like finding the Holy Grail in the Indiana Jones universe. It was some kind of mysterious, ethereal, mythological creature that both existed and did not exist in the same universe. You could hear about it. Maybe you'd hear rumors and whispers about someone who had played it, but there's no possible way that you could find it anywhere. Everyone would lose their minds over all the time on the news, saying how bad and terrible it was. But you couldn't find it. I've never been able to play Manhunt in my life. Not that I really want to. I know it's pretty bad, though.
came out. Let's talk about Manhunt. Manhunt was developed by Rockstar North, and the first game came out in 2003, with the sequel coming out in 2007. In Manhunt, you play as a man named James Earl Cash, I'm not kidding, as he is forced to participate in multiple snuff films. Most notably in the game, whenever a player performs an execution kill, the camera
It's a snuff
cuts
film?
to a grimy handheld camcorder that would likely be seen in a snuff film production. The game didn't garner that much attention from mainstream media when it first came out. It was the next year in 2004 when a 14-year-old boy was murdered in the UK, and the
That's why! I remember! That's why! This is huge!
media began to blame the killing on the game Manhunt. The news around this time had a
Murder by PlayStation. Horror images on computer drove teenager to kill his friend aged 14. Murder by PlayStation. Oh, of course it's the Daily Mail. Absolute rag.
field day talking about how the killer was motivated by the game and he would play the game over and over again, and it's because of the game he decided to murder this child. But the only quote I could find that ever referenced Manhunt at all was the parents of the victim said regarding the killer, I think his friends mentioned that he played it, which is pretty much just a speculation. Because of that, Manhunt hit the
Hey, listen, that's all the evidence I need, baby. That's all buying all the games. Get rid of them. That's all the evidence I need. I don't need any more than that. I heard from someone that someone said that someone else had played something, maybe, I think. I don't know, I heard it through a wall, so they could have said Clan Bunt or Man Stunt, but I'm pretty sure they said Manhunt, so let's lock them all up, baby. Get those games out of here. Arrest the developers, too.
The next subject for the whole "Are video games bad for kids?" debate. So in response, in 2007, Manhunt 2 was way worse than Manhunt 1. Whereas Manhunt 1 had a story, and it was just a particularly brutal story meant for adults, Manhunt 2 relished much more in the brutality of it because that was the thing that got the game popular. So
yeah, all I can remember from Manhunt 2 is that you could kill someone with, like, a bag. You could, like, suffocate them with a bag, and I'm like, oh, dude, that's pretty grim.
people ragged on the game for being disturbing, and Rockstar North turned the dial up to 11.
Fiction does affect reality, but there needs to be proper investigation to these things. There's been, like, so many studies done that provides no correlation between playing violent video games and actually doing violence in real life. There's been so many. Trust me, if there was any correlation, they would have banned video games years ago because old people don't understand them, and anything that you don't understand is scary and wrong. So if there was any scientific correlation between playing violent video games and going out and, like, doing mass shootings because you think it's funny, then it would have been found out. It would have been found out. There's been so many studies. So many.
On to Tier 2, these are mostly games that are still kind of edgy or bizarre, just more so. Ugetsu Catan was made by the Tonkin House in 1996. I'm sure I pronounced none of that right, but we're just going to keep going. The game involves you playing as a character who recently attempted suicide, or possibly succeeded in it, but then a ghost brought you back, but then you're alive at the end, but it's a Japanese game, it's weird. The reason it's on this list is because at various sections in the game, the ghost takes you down these very strange and, like I said, Japanese settings, with each set piece being the story of a different individual who took their own life.
Oh god, that sounds grim. Jesus Christ, who's the person that made this? That just sounds sad. Okay, I moved the face cam because I realized I'm covering so many, like, screenshots that he's putting up here.
In general, monsters of the afterlife. While this is bizarre in its own right, where the game gets interesting is that given its themes of suicide, there are several who believe that several of the faces depicted within the game are of
Real people?
suicide victims.
Oh,
This isn't confirmed
no!
anywhere, and it's just an urban legend surrounding the game, but given the bizarre nature of the game
The
itself,
Logan Paul of game developers.
Hatred was created by Destructive Creations in 2015.
This was ridiculous. I thought this was satire when it first came out. I thought when this came out, it was making fun of super edgy people. Then when you actually play the game, it seems to take itself seriously and that it's not actually satire. It's like, I hate society. They all need to die, which is why I'm gonna run around with double dual-wielding pistols and a leather cloak on and shoot random people. I thought it was gonna be satire. It's just gonna be like making a massive doof out of the person that thinks that this is a good idea. But no, apparently not. It's just a really bad game.
You play as a guy who has decided that humanity is awful and then goes on a rampage. The game is just you slaughtering as many people you can with as many executions and different weapons as possible. The ending of the game has your character making it to a nuclear facility where he blows up the facility in order to cause the maximum casualties. The game received so much backlash on its release that it was temporarily taken down from Steam. Or more specifically, it was pulled from Steam's Greenlight program. However, eventually, it was put back up. Now here's what's interesting. There's a story that Gabe Newell, the Valve founder who all the memes are made about, apologized for the game and then had it taken down. When it seems in actuality, he apologized to the dev team of Hatred for taking the game down in the first place.
Wow.
Freedom of expression and whatnot.
Okay. Listen, I don't think the problem is it's just a game about running around and shooting as many people as you can and as an edgelord game. I think the problem with the game is that it's just an awful game with a terrible premise. It's just everything about it just sucks massively.
And because of the controversy and how much attention getting taken off.
Yeah, you just play as a terrorist.
Hatred got so much support that it eventually came out in full. And after this game that everyone was clamoring for finally came out, they universally decided that it was mid. Which, yeah, the selling point of the game is the brutality and absurdism of it all. Not, great controls or story. I'm not even going to...
It's basically Naughty Bear for 4chan users.
pretend I'm pronouncing this one correctly.
What is this?
No Nana Korobi Yoki. Yeah, Nana Korobi Yoki? Sure. Translated, the title means Roly-Polies falling down 7 times and getting up 8. Which is a...
Okay, it doesn't sound that bad.
My understanding. This game was released in 1997.
What the hell?
And made by Osamu Sato, the same guy who did the LSD Dream emulator game, which when you look at the two side by side, you can probably guess that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Was supposed to be a game to help young children learn new languages. However, instead, it became a game to help young children develop new nightmares. Because these are some of the most terrifying character models I have ever seen. It's also in that weird, uncanny age of early CG.
Nah, this is from Scott Cawthon, is it, Mr. Five Nights at Friendos? You can't convince me Scotty wasn't working on this in the background.
So, that doesn't help. But what's so interesting and also disturbing about this game is while you've probably seen a lot of games or videos in this aesthetic, the whole, mascot horror or creepy games for kids.
This is 97 idea, this came out.
This does it all natural. It was a game for children that just so happened to accidentally be nightmare fuel. And while
why hasn't Markiplier played this yet?
The game is a cult hit, as you can imagine, it didn't sell well at the time because people thought it was terrifying. I also think it's kind of hilarious how the artist who did LSD Dream Emulator, and we can understand the idea of kind of out there or, heady art pieces that are kind of disturbing and scary, but weirdly comforting in a different sense. Like, we can process that. But that guy took that same mindset and was like, if we bend the shapes and colors we built here into this, they can teach children the alphabet. For our last one...
I need Jacksepticeye to jump on that one, to be fair. This is something Dorko would love. Oh, he'd love it. He'd be like, Five Nights at Freddy's in 1997? What? Pogface! It'd be so good.
We have, by far, my favorite on Tier 2, Left Behind Eternal Forces. Left Behind Eternal Forces is a Christian real-time strategy game based off of the Left Behind book series. It was made by Inspired Media Entertainment in 2006 and places the Tribulation Force,
Oh my god, is this a game where you play as someone that is left behind after the Armageddon happens? After the rapture? When the holy and the believers are raised toward infinite pleasure in heaven and the people that don't believe are left behind? Is that... Don't. No, that'd be great.
Global community peacekeepers. The tribulation force being the remnant of the Christians left after the rapture.
Wait, why were the Christians left after the rapture? I thought they were going to get sucked up into heaven with a tractor beam.
Global community peacekeepers being a part of the New World Order. In the single-player mode, you play as the Tribulation Force as you try to battle against the New World Order while also converting people to Christianity.
Oh my god, this is just QAnon! Oh my god, I didn't know QAnon's been around for so long!
They're like, we are the last bastion, brothers. We need to fight against the New World Order. We need to shoot people with guns to make them Christian.
You also need to manage your resources for the survivors at your base camp, and also keep your men in the field supplied so that they can get new converts.
Wait, no, I don't understand. If they're true Christians, and this is after the rapture, wouldn't God just spawn them AK-47s, M16s, and howitzer mortars? I thought God would just give them stuff because it's God, you know?
While you do have weapons, you want to use them sparingly and only when you have to, because killing people lowers your spirit level and causes more people to defect and choose not to convert.
Do you have conversion guns? Where if you shoot someone, they're like, I believe. Oh my god. Wait, I can't say that. Damn, I'm not allowed to say that. Jesus Christ. Oh, wait, sorry, I can't say that anymore either. I definitely do believe now. The Bible is so cool.
In the multiplayer mode, you play against other players as either, again, the Tribulation Force or the New World Order. And to all that, I ask...
I'm surprised they let you play as the New World Order. They're allowing you to play as, like, the Satanists or whatever the New World Order is supposed to be in this timeline.
Who was this game for? Because, well, the obvious answer you may think is, oh, well, it's for Christians who are really into RTS games, I guess. But no, it's not. Because it's like making a weird mockery of it. The idea that there's, like, a point system for how many converts you have, and that there's a spirit level that takes you further from God the more people you shoot. And it's definitely not for not.
Wouldn't like modern day Republicans like this a lot if you're like in America? I'm pretty sure they would like this. Believe me, no one outside of that era gonna play this game. No one in any other country is playing this game.
Super Christians, because who's gonna pick up a game called Left Behind otherwise? The game had several critics on either side of the aisle. Again, people who were not Christian thought the concept was ridiculous, and people who were thought it was a mockery, especially because in the online mode you can effectively play as the Antichrist. And eventually, the game faded into obscurity.
That's so awesome. I love how it's a bipartisan issue, that everyone on both sides of the aisle can come together and stand on the fence of centrism that this game is arse.
One of the funniest stories I found around this game is they planned to include this in a care package program for American soldiers in the Middle East.
Wow.
But after all this public backlash started, they decided against it.
Could you imagine living somewhere, you're deployed out there in the Middle East, you're in the middle of Afghanistan, fighting for your life, probably on a daily basis, having bullets thrown at you left and right, and the one care package that you get from home, the one thing to bring you comfort, open it, a jar of peanut butter, delicious, and a copy of Left Behind, Eternal Forces. That's what they send you. If they did that, I would desert. I would say, oh, this country doesn't actually care about me. No, I'm gonna go actually. This is what I'm fighting for. This is what they send me. Are you kidding? No, you just desert at that point.
So there was a chance for a while that there were going to be soldiers on their mid-2000s computers in the middle of Iraq playing as the Antichrist to mow down their friend who's converting people to Christianity. Do with that.
Awesome.
With that,
fantastic.
We're on to Tier 3. And within Tier 3, we're going to look at more...
Quest for Bush? Well then, don't mind if I do. Wait, Quest for Saddam and Quest for Bush? Are they just like the same thing? Is this like the Pokemon Red and Blue, but they flip the version so you can do something slightly different? In one version, you go after Saddam Hussein, and the other one, you go after George Bush.
Real-world disturbing factors, as well as games that, again, push the envelope in a political or media sense. Starting with our first entry, Hong Kong 97, which was developed by Happysoft in 1995. Hong Kong 97 is a satirical game about what might happen if the people of China invade the land of Hong Kong. The setting of the gameplay being, and I'm not kidding, Bruce Lee's relative shows up in Hong Kong to kill every Chinese person. So it's very ridiculous, over the top, and made for a laugh. Except, if the player dies, on the game over screen, there is a photo of what appears to be a real dead body. Now, this was a huge question for a long time. Why on earth does this random parody game have just a dead body for seemingly no reason? But thanks to Gooseboost on YouTube, which I'll link his video in the description, it turns out this was in fact a real dead body. It comes from the documentary Death Files, which I talked about in the disturbing movie Iceberg, and it turns out the corpse shown in the game over screen is the corpse of a man who was killed in the Bosnian Civil War. And it's presented so...
The Bosnian Civil War? Why? What?
Unceremoniously. I can only imagine the creator of Hong Kong 97 just didn't really think about it. They're like, oh, well, your character dies, so we'll show a dead guy. Which is really sad.
Probably. They probably just Googled, like, dead guy, and were like, yeah, copy and paste that, put it in. Back in the day, you could do anything. There was no kind of restrictions on video games. You could just, like, throw something together in machine code, and then put it on a disk and throw it out there. Boom, you got a game. There it is.
If you think about it. Kanye Quest 3030 is a turn-based RPG that centers around a fictional story regarding Kanye West. The game is about Kanye West going to the year...
Oh my god, it's an RPG Maker game. Are you kidding me? What is going on?
3030 to fight all of these different rappers and artists in the future. The game itself is just lighthearted and fun. It has things like lyrical references and song titles to use as weapons or defense in battle. And on the surface, the game just seems to be an easygoing RPG title. That is, until you dig a little deeper. Nextpo made a great video about all of this, which I will link in the description, but the short version is that many believe Kanye Quest 3030 to be the hub of a cult known as Ascensionism. Several ciphers and codes that are found within the game lead people to believe that it is either a recruitment tool for the cult or it is used by a hub for cult members. Eventually, people found enough information to contact developers.
Why would they make it an RPG Maker? What is going on? How are you going to recruit people through an RPG Maker game? People playing these types of games aren't smart enough to decipher this. I know I'm not smart enough to decipher this, so I can join a cult. I feel like that's really going to hamper your recruitment possibilities because you're just making it really hard. It's like, what, in terms of, oh, you want to join the military? Okay, go and find an original copy of E.T. and finish it, and then tell me the secret code that you get at the end. Then you can join the military.
Developers of the game who supposedly were a part of this cult. And several of these supposed...
This is a game theory about it?
To send in things like their full name, address, and images of themselves.
Address?
Now, later on into the Iceberg, we're going to get into a lot of what I believe to be real, scary, cult activities and video game stuff.
Okay.
Or at least things that I think have more potential to be legitimate. Because in all my research of Kanye Quest 3030, I'm pretty sure all of the ciphers and codes and whatnot are done to just drive attention towards the game, and they're kind of building a sort of ARG.
Did they sell this?
But it is real that they asked people for pictures of themselves and names and whatnot, and that is always scary.
Did they officially sanction this? Did Kanye West come out and he's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We should definitely have released this game. It's awesome.
Never do that, ever. Even if you do want to join a cult. If they're a good cult, they'll already have pictures of you. They should have done their homework. And on the note of things that are probably fake, but I'm going to talk about them anyway because it'd be a lot cooler if they were real, we have Station.exe. Station.exe was a comedically simplistic game that was uploaded to 4chan. The poster said that the disc was for sale at a local venue and there was no information about it. When loading into the game, we see that it is as simplistic as a design for this quote-unquote station could possibly be. The player just walks from room to room, seeing a few things that appear to be generators and, I guess, grass around the facility itself with a...
This feels like something that you just make up real quick to put a Trojan horse on, so when you play the game, it installs a Trojan horse and you can steal all their details. Also, it does look like a B-Tech version of Slender Man, the original Slender game.
Leading away from it. However, after a few minutes of walking around, really strange noises start to play, and then these giant floating polygon heads begin to follow the player. When they make contact with the player, they do damage, and upon dying, the game crashes. One player noticed that on the outside wall of one of the buildings were coordinates. When typing in those coordinates, we can see that it takes you to a location in Siberia. This Siberian station is an abandoned diamond mine that has a striking resemblance to the structure within station.exe. Now,
Okay.
this abandoned diamond
Sure.
mine is in a prohibited area of Siberia, so no one's able to go up and check out the location for themselves.
In Siberia? Come on. There's like no one in Siberia. I think you could sneak in pretty easily. Also, it just seems like you base it off this and it's a little coordinates. It's a little Easter egg. I don't think it goes very much further than that.
To that effect, why on earth does this game have a potentially one-for-one recreation of an abandoned station building at a diamond mine in the middle of Siberia? Digging into the game's files, there were connections to old messages that were left on the weapons board of 4chan, but that probably makes sense because if the game was made as a sort of hoax...
Okay, this just seems like a creepypasta. It's a creepypasta that someone made into a game, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. It has no ending. There's not much story to it.
There were archived posts brought in from 4chan to freak out people on 4chan who might see them, so that's all well and good, but why on earth would it...
I can't believe the Google van actually went down this road. There is no one braver on this planet than the Google van man.
Just to be this random building in the middle of the tundra for seemingly no reason. I suppose maybe the person who created the game saw the abandoned building on like Google Earth or something and decided to recreate it in his game to be creepy. But even then, like, what on earth does the giant heads mean and everything else? It's such a strange little mystery. I hope it's something terrifying.
Well, I mean, obviously they're making giant head weapons where if they touch you, you get vaporized, obviously. Russia's been working on that for a while now. Hopefully they never complete it because, scary
It
weapons.
would make me so happy. Quest for Saddam was made by...
Oh my
Detroit
god,
Entertainment
okay.
in 2003.
All right.
Quest for Saddam was an over-the-top shooter that was a parody of Saddam Hussein.
People really make anything.
Middle Eastern militants that just had a bunch of stereotypes and featured the player going through with Doom-esque controls and just shooting everyone they come across, eventually killing Saddam Hussein himself. And while there were a ton of these edgy games, especially in the early 2000s, like Muslim Massacre or Zog's Nightmare, the reason I would mention
I remember
Quest for
that.
Saddam is because Quest for Saddam got like a weird amount of attention in the news, and not in the way things like Postal or Manhunt did, but like positive attention. Like people saw it and thought it was interesting, and that it was a fun way to interact with the war on terror, I guess.
What?
So in response, the Global Islamic Media Front made a counter to Quest for Saddam called Quest for Bush.
Oh
was
my
pretty
god.
much the exact same game.
Tony Blair's there as well. Hey, you guys get a little bit of representation. Oh, so the media,
The fake news lamestream media came out and said this game was good because they want to give positive attention to killing the enemies of the United States. If there's someone out there in the Middle East and we don't like them, well, that's okay. You can make a video game about killing them and do racist stereotypes because they're the bad guys. And listen, we're the good ones. You don't have to worry about it. Don't even think about it even a little bit. Even though Saddam Hussein was definitely a bad guy. Definitely a bad guy.
Only all of the character models of the Middle Eastern soldiers you kill were switched over to American soldier models, and at the end of the game, instead of killing Saddam, you kill
Bush.
President George Bush.
Oh my god, dude, that's fucking insane. Oh.
There's been a ton of propaganda games that were made by one agency to push one ideology or another or whatever, but it's rare to see one side make a game where you kill the other side's leader, so the other side literally goes, "No you," and decides to kill the president. To be honest, I don't know if something like that has ever happened again.
That's
But
insane.
it should. That's hilarious. Moving into tier 4.
Yeah, that's pretty
we're
funny.
Getting into the heavy stuff.
Oh my god, JFK Reloaded? What? Okay, here we go.
Our first title, Super Columbine Massacre RPG.
Alright, damn. Restarted that one with a heavy one. Jeepers Creepers.
Super Columbine Massacre RPG was developed by Danny Leedon in 2005. The game is, as it says, an RPG where you play as Eric and Dylan on the day of the Columbine shooting. Eric and Dylan, of course, being the two shooters of the Columbine Massacre. The game, as you could imagine, is very brutal. It opens with Eric's mother waking him up on the day of the shooting, Eric and Dylan making the bombs that they plant at the school, which never actually go off, and then you take control as Eric and Dylan massacre as many people as possible. After the shooting, as in real life, Eric and Dylan take their own lives, and in the game, their bodies are
Okay, that was a really bad time to have a jingle for a super chat go off. Thank you for the $1.
shown, along with a montage of news footage and witnesses and statements of victims' families. However, this is only the halfway point of the game, as it then goes to Eric and Dylan in hell fighting off
What?
demons. And this is not played in a horrific or serious tone at all. The two of them remark that this is like Doom, and eventually they make their way to a plaza where they meet various dead historical figures and fictional characters like Oppenheimer, or
Okay.
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
As well
Yep.
as characters like Pikachu and
What?
Mario.
Why? Okay, why are Pikachu and Mario in hell? Like, the other two made sense. I don't understand why Pikachu and Mario would be in hell.
Homer Simpson.
God, come on. Really? I mean, I know he's not that good of a husband, but I don't think he deserves eternal damnation.
And it ends with them fighting the South Park version of Satan, and Satan saying they did a good job in that whole kill spree thing. So it's strange
What?
for a lot.
Dude, the thing about this is games are not easy to make. I say this all the time. I was stand by whenever a bad game comes out and it's like a AAA game, games take so much time and effort to make. Programming is hard. Developing assets for a game is hard. It takes weeks, it takes months, sometimes years to make games. Someone had to sit down for weeks or maybe months just slaving meticulously away over the finer details of this game, thinking that eventually they're going to release this, and why? To what kind of response? What do you think is going to happen after you release this? After you spend a very significant portion of your existence on this earth, which we only get one of, making this? Is it just for attention? Is it just for attention?
A lot of
I think it
reasons,
is.
but perhaps most strange by the words the creator has said about it. So Danny, the creator of the game, says that the reason he made the game is because when he was in high school, he was bullied a lot in a similar manner to how Eric and Dylan were bullied, and it got to the point that he began to desire to hurt these people who were doing this to him. And it wasn't until Danny watched A Clockwork Orange that he said while watching the movie, he recognized that just because society has placed him in a predicament, it doesn't justify his actions or the evils he would commit in the name of that injustice. So because of that, Danny began going to therapy and got better, but he always sympathized with the position that Eric and Dylan were in. So
okay. All right. Sure, that's a pretty complex issue. I think that we can all agree, and I'm glad to hear that you got better. Making the game? I mean, you could have made another game. I get that you sympathize. That's kind of weird. You could have made another game.
So he claims that he made Super Columbine Massacre RPG as a purposefully over-the-top statement on how the media and how politicians portraying the Columbine Massacre. There's a lot of talk in the game about things like gun control and about how they're playing video games led to all this. And of course, with the second half of the game taking place in hell, it's clearly satirical, at least to some degree. Now,
Yeah, obviously he didn't make it because he was like, oh man, wasn't this super cool and awesome? I mean, maybe someone would. Someone made Hatred, so it's not completely impossible.
while that's all well and good for an art project, as you could imagine, the family members of the victims of Columbine weren't too happy with, this whole art project he had made. So one of the friends of one of the victims of Columbine ended up doxing the creator, and that's how we know his name's Danny and all, because beforehand he was anonymous, until he got doxed, and then after getting doxed, he came forward with all this stuff, effectively saying, oh, well, it's actually, irony or post-irony.
I actually didn't mean it. I was actually being ironic the entire time. Is it a way to save face after he's been exposed as the person who created this game? I don't know. Is it also very valid that this kind of thing is exactly how things like the media portrays horrible events such as this? They're like, oh my god, a big shooting went down, huge shooting, big thing. Pay attention to this. This is the killer's face. This is the people that they killed. Why did they do it? This is the gun that they used. It's a big gun. Let's have someone talk about the gun for a bit. It's like, also kind of true.
Or whatever. But because of those statements, Super Columbine Massacre RPG is held in a weird place of respect by a lot of people, who are familiar with these disturbing games, like every other, I hate that I even have to say this, but every other school shooting simulator or RPG.
Oh my, of course there's more. Well, I did not need to learn that. He said every other school shooting simulator RPG. Oh, I hate that sentence. Why does that exist?
Compared back to Super Columbine Massacre RPG as it being the golden standard. One of these
The
games
what?
being
Oh man,
VTech
I mean,
Rampage,
yeah.
which is a game about the Virginia Tech campus shooting.
Oh my god, there is just so many of these. What is going on?
It's developed by Ryan Lamburn and came out 3 weeks after the Virginia Tech shooting.
Oh, he
In it, you
sped run
play
that.
as
Wow.
the shooter, and you follow the same timeline of events he did, from his first 2 victims to going to record a final video and then going on the rampage before taking his own life. Now, the reason I mentioned that, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm only trying to keep one game from each category here. The reason I mentioned the VTech Rampage game is because, unlike Danny Ladon, who gave all that stuff about how this was actually an artistic expression of
Oh, here we go.
his mindset at the time.
Yeah, here we go.
The creator of VTech Rampage said he made it, quote, because it's funny. And he put up these donation goals saying that if he is donated $1,000, he will take the game off Newgrounds. If he is donated
my God.
$2,000,
If he's donated $1,000, he'll take the game off Newgrounds. You know, does he know that Newgrounds can just delete games? Does he know that that can happen? Does he think that Newgrounds just doesn't have control over their own website?
take the game off his website. And if he has donated $3,000, he'll say he's sorry. It doesn't matter where you go
I bet Leafy made this. Leafy is here, developed this game, and you can't convince me otherwise.
on the internet or how far down the rabbit hole you've gone. It always gets worse. And speaking of, let's get worse right now. KZ Manager is a Zoo Tycoon type game where the thing that you are managing is a concentration camp. That is right, it is a property manager video game set in a...
You know, just when you think it can't get much worse, there's just like more and more things that comes out. Humans are so disgustingly creative in the way that they create things. Maybe free will was a mistake.
a 1940s concentration camp. The original game was released for the Commodore 64 in 1990 by the Missionaries. Some of the resources you have to manage is prisoners and food to things like public opinion, and things like public opinion will rise with the more people you execute.
What? I thought the German public didn't know that this was even happening. Why would public opinion go up when you execute more people? That's not even historically accurate, is it? I don't think. I don't know.
Execute everyone, you don't have workers to raise capital in other areas.
Oh, what a
It's had
conundrum.
several different re-releases over the years, adding things like visual elements. But all versions of the game center around you controlling one of humanity's most brutal genocides. And to kind of have a final entry, especially after those last few, that's just bizarreness taken to the extreme, look no further than the developer Kongudi. Kongudi is, and yeah, I'm sticking with that pronunciation, is a game developer who has made some of the most unexplainable, bizarre things I have ever seen.
Is this going to be a palate
Look at some
cleanser?
of these titles, such as Merry-Go-Round,
Okay.
Why?
I mean, it doesn't look that fun to play.
Intelligent Rackety Paradise,
What? What is
and
going
the
on?
Underground Explorer.
Okay, I just like it. All
Theories
right.
for why these games even exist range from everything that it is a sensory overload test to see what you can push your brain to the idea that it is some new way to open up channels of your mind, sort of a visual.
Okay,
drug.
yeah.
Some
Is this the same people that think that you only use like 10% of your brain? It's like,
You can use this game to unlock 25% of your brain capacity and then ascend even further beyond. This is what Einstein played before he discovered
saying
relativity.
he's just trying to give people seizures. All in all, I am sure that it is unexplainable to anyone but Kongudi. I went to his website to try to make things better, and it just made them much worse. Almost nothing is known about this anonymous developer, and nothing probably ever will. And I kind of like that there's just one absolutely insane corner of the internet that I can come back to if I ever want to be mortified.
well, that seems pretty harmless. He's just having a good time. He's just making some wacky, goofy stuff and throwing it out there. He's just enjoying himself. You know, that's a little bit of a palate cleanser from the horrible things that you've seen in this tier so far. So let's move
The
on.
story of Kamikushiki Village was supposedly created by the Aum Shinrikyo cult. Now, in reality, it was developed by Happy Soft Games in 1995, the same people, mind you, who did Hong Kong 97, and the game centers around the aforementioned Aum Shinrikyo cult. Now, this cult may sound familiar to you because they were responsible for the Tokyo sarin gas attacks of 1995. The game
I don't
goes
remember
on
this.
a journey
Yeah, I don't know anything about these attacks or anything like that.
through the cult's existence, from their early days to their rise to political power, and eventually the gas attacks themselves. What makes the game so disturbing are several of the videos and images are taken from the cult themselves. Everything from the facilities where the gas that would take the lives of several innocents was created, to interviews and videos of the cult in worship. Now, while the game is disturbing in its own right for that reason, as mentioned, one of the main theories around this game is that it was developed by the cult themselves as a sort of recruitment tool. Now,
A recruitment tool? Oh, awesome. Wow, awesome. So the Tokyo subway sarin attack was on 1995 on March 20th. In 5 attacks, the perpetrators released sarin on 3 lines of the Tokyo Metro, which killed 13 people, severely injured 50, some people who died after that, and caused temporary vision problem for nearly 1,000 people. That's terrifying, man. As someone that uses public transport, I have this like doomer mindset where I think about this all the time. Like, what if the train just crashes? What if it derails? What if someone gets on the train and just starts like throwing around a knife? Like, what am I gonna do? I don't know if this is paranoid for me to think about, but that's absolutely terrifying, and I hate that. Because there's not really many places for you to go on a metro. You're just kind of like locked in there.
I personally don't believe that because, as anyone who's played the game would know, it depicts the cult in a pretty negative light. Like, for example, the leader of the cult, Shoko Asahara, was known for selling his bathwater and blood to members of the cult. And
Oh my god, what? That was like, is this where Belle Delphine got the first idea from? Was she not the originator of the bathwater selling? What's going on there? That's so strange. Not sure if it's on this list, but there was a game on Newgrounds about a killer at Sandy Hook. Oh, it probably is, to be honest. It really probably is. Well, thank you so much for the $10 though, Alan. I appreciate that. There probably is one of those. No on this tier list.
the way that's depicted in the game is with this, which is, far from flattering.
Wow.
However, several theories come back into play and state that if the game wasn't made by a cult, it was made with the help of some cult members, as many of the videos and photos that are seen in the game don't come from any mainstream news or documentary sources that covered the cult's actions.
They had a guy on the
Perhaps
inside.
elements of this game were put together by disgruntled cult members. Either way, seeing killers portrayed
Were they disgruntled that they did the gas attacks, or were they disgruntled that they didn't do more? Who knows?
in this kind of comedic light, with the knowledge that perhaps these elements were made by people who were complicit with the murders when they happened, is disturbing to say the least. And then finally for tier 4, we have
Oh my
JFK
god.
Reloaded.
What?
Now, a lot of you
What
have
the
probably
fuck?
heard of
What?
this game if you're familiar with disturbing games online. It was developed by Traffic Games in 2004 and is quite literally a Lee Harvey Oswald simulator. It entirely goes off the basis of the Warren Commission's findings that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone and shot Kennedy as he was driving away, and the
So it's a propaganda game here to lead us astray.
I'm joking. I don't know anything about the JFK assassination. All I know is he got blasted in a car next to his wife. I don't know anything more about that. I don't know any conspiracy theories. I'm pretty sure there are still some people out there that think that JFK is still alive and he's going to resurrect eventually one day or something like that.
entire purpose of the game is to recreate that kill shot. As a matter of fact, the developer of the game said...
What? Why are were there really secret agents that would just like hang on the side of a car like that? I mean, are there really people that do that?
That the reason this game was made in the first place was to prove the Warren Commission's findings that Lee Harvey Oswald could have taken all 3 of those shots, and everything played out in the exact same way the FBI said it did. As a matter of fact, all the language around this game, even given what we're about to talk about in a minute, seems to be weirdly respectful of JFK, and the idea that this whole game was done as sort of a research tool, so that people
Wait a minute. Did the FBI make this? Not to get conspiracy theory tinfoil hat on you, but I think the FBI did it.
could understand the logistics of what happened in Dallas that day. When the game came out, they put up a prize offering that said, depending on how the game does in sales, a $100,000 prize
Sales?
would be rewarded to whoever can most perfectly recreate Lee Harvey Oswald's shots.
Nah, man. They sold this? I thought it was just something that was like leaked online. It was like an EXE that you post on 4chan and then dip. What?
You want to know the funniest thing about it? This entire game that was made to prove that Lee Harvey Oswald could do it. And that surely, if everyone plays a video game enough times, eventually someone's going to recreate it. They
I bet no one recreated it. No one claimed the winning
were
shot.
never able to recreate Lee Harvey Oswald shots. They made a simulator to
Well, that proves it, guys.
Lee Harvey Oswald was the shooter, and it didn't work. The logistics of how the bullets went and the amount of time to fire and all of that was seen as no way, absurd, and the magic bullet, nope, didn't happen. The closest someone got during that competition was like 60% accuracy out of the 100% scale the game grades on.
60%? That is so bad. How can you do so miserably atrocious with 100K on the line?
And he was rewarded about $10,000. But to this day, no one has completed a 100% run of JFK Reloaded.
Well, it must have been the
also
FBI.
has a lot of comedic elements in it as well. Like, for example, you can set how much everyone freaks out when shots start to fire. And there is a mode where as soon as you fire the gun, everyone starts driving in different directions and crashes into things and people get thrown everywhere. You don't just have to shoot JFK, you can shoot anyone standing around the area for funsies, I guess. And upon looking in the game files, all of that fake deep stuff about we're here to help the Kennedy family and all that seems to be not true, as they do things like, oh, I don't know, refer to JFK being hit in the head as the quote money shot. And people like Ted Kennedy and other members of the Kennedy family said they hated it and it was a disgrace and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, no wonder. Dude, if someone made a video game all about shooting one of my dear family members in the face and getting like the best shot and being able to do it in the best way and then saying, oh, if you get the best shot, if you kill him in the most cool pog way, then you get 100K. I'd be like, well, actually, I'm not really a fan of this. I don't think that there should be a money shot in my uncle's death.
And when you think about it, aside from like the disrespect to Kennedy and all that, when you think about it, this doesn't sound like someone that really likes the FBI and wants to prove that Oswald did it would do. This sounds like something I would do. Like, I would 100% make a Lee Harvey Oswald simulator where I'm like, yep, I made this to prove that he can do it, no problem. Oh,
but he can't.
That? It's impossible? Everyone who's tried thousands and hundreds of thousands of times has never been able to recreate what the FBI said happened that day. Oh me,
no!
Oh my, what a predicament we've gotten ourselves into. What will I ever do? Like, the developers of this were absolutely trolling. All of that, we're here to prove and help out the FBI, was a load of it. And aside from, like, the whole making fun of the Kennedy stuff, like calling it the money shot or whatever, the elements of, like, adding a car crash mode to it and making it effectively impossible to validate the FBI in any way, I, for one, stand for it. I think that's hilarious. I love him. I mean, look at...
I mean, there's trolling and there's hating on another level. This guy just, I originally said that the FBI did it. I'm retracting that now. This is next level trolling on a level that we haven't seen before in many, many years.
The homepage of the game and tell me that this is state sanctioned. All right, tier 5 is going to be quick. I didn't really know where to put these because there's no topics to talk about them. But if I'm talking about disturbing games, then it's kind of a cop-out to not talk about them.
Yeah, this is, just by the name, it's gonna get bad, so trigger warning for anyone that does not like that very much. Well, no one likes it, but just a warning, that's coming.
So yeah, let's just get this over with. So first up, we have 177. 177 is the Japanese police code for a rope in progress. And the game 177
in
is
progress?
About just that. It was developed in 1986 by DB Soft and has you playing a character who is trying to 177 a woman he's chasing down in the middle of a field. You do this by stripping off pieces of her clothes one by one before you eventually commit the deed in a cutscene. This is not helped by the fact that the game has pretty much no music, so it's just this incredibly eerie and violent setting that I think is supposed to be comedic, at least from the way the development and the text
comedic
makes it out to be.
Again, it takes so long to make a game, especially in 1986, where you don't have as many tools and programs at your disposal. This takes so long. It takes so long to make a game.
But it just comes across as incredibly creepy and eerie. Depending on how you did, if you had low points, you lose because you didn't bring pleasure and you're arrested and thrown in jail.
To who?
Much, much worse, if you win by bringing pleasure, then the victim decides to marry you and you get
Oh my god!
ending. This game was hated by everyone when it came out. The Japanese government had a big fuss about it, and eventually the game was recalled. And on the same note of 177 is a
You can imagine the day when that game was recalled and they thought, "Whoa, oh man, that bums me out. I spent so long making this game. I thought I thought people would like it. Like, well, I don't understand why people don't like it that much. It's crazy."
called Ray Play. I think if I enunciate it that way, YouTube won't catch on. And the game is where you do exactly what it says. You play as a guy who is attempting to that a woman and her 2 children.
Is this video age restricted? It has to be, right? Wow. Wendigoon did a really good job getting around the censors this time. Jeez.
Aged 17 and 12. The gameplay has
What?
you stalking each of them individually before you begin to
Jail.
physically assault
No.
them.
No. Jail. Immediately. I don't care about free expression anymore. I don't care about it. I've come to the conclusion that free expression is not okay. Free speech was a mistake. Jail, immediately. You get put in jail. If you're posting your crimes like that, you get put in jail. They may not have actually done it, but you're making a game about it. Posting your crimes, mate. Jail, immediately.
Before doing the task. The
Do
game
not
was
pass
developed
go.
by
Go
a
to jail.
company called Illusion in 2006 and is one of the most banned countries in the world. Like, for real, everything from sections of Europe to Japan itself to
It's one of the most banned games in as many countries in the world.
Australia.
Okay.
Everywhere has this game blacklisted, as you could imagine. Now, the reason that I talk about both of these games, like I said, normally, if there's one game that has this encompassing idea, I'm not going to talk
This
about
is
everything else
developers.
in that category. But I want to talk about these two for different reasons. So 177 is kind of like the idea of all those old games like Custer's Revenge and whatnot, like old early video games that were they felt mocking of like a real world tragedy or whatever, a real world evil. But this one weirdly had a lot of people come to its defense, particularly.
Oh, dude, of course. Listen, if you even try to say that on Twitter, because of course that's where all the degenerates live, if you try to say that Lolly is like not good and bad and weird and shouldn't be a thing probably, there's always like the free speech, the free art absolutists that come out and they're like,
Well, actually, I think it's okay because XYZ,
10,000-year-old dragon, etc., etc. You've heard it before. I don't know how people come to the conclusion.
like, well, I think the artists should be able to create the things that they are inspired by. Don't you? What are you, a band person? What do you want to suppress free art? Yeah, well, yeah, maybe we should suppress free art a little bit. Maybe we should.
When it started to get banned. What did I say? Particularly, there we go, when it started getting banned. Because they would argue that while that is a horrible crime, it's not viewed as badly in society as, say, murder is. But we have games about murder all the time. Why do they not get banned, but this one does? Two different stories that effectively show the depravity that developers can reach when they run with the idea of seeing what they can get away with. Tier 6 is going to be some of the more interesting urban legends or disturbing stories that revolve around pre-existing games. Worlds.com premiered in April of 1995 and was one of the first 3D meet and greet chat games. And considering it came out in 1995, Worlds.com is quite impressive. It featured a lot of things that would become standard for...
Oh, it's like Second Life. Is that Gandalf? Is that Saruman? What is going on here?
Things like player...
Oh god, thank god we have a little bit of a palate cleanser. Okay, this one's gonna be a little bit better. Jesus, now we're getting off that tier. We can move on to something a little bit more, maybe potentially lighthearted, jovial, hopefully.
...controlled avatars, or different meeting rooms and sections within Worlds.com itself. When the game came out, it got attention from people like Steven Spielberg and David Bowie. It was a huge deal. However, over the years, the tech became antiquated and people lost interest. So why is it on this list? Well, effectively, Worlds.com was this online game where players could interact and talk to each other, but now there were no players. So, something more sinister began to fill in the gaps.
Wait, if there are no players, why would they keep the servers up? If genuinely no one is playing it and you still have to pay to keep the servers online, are the developers the ones that are doing the nefariousness? What's going on?
There's a lot of stories with Worlds.com involving legends of a cult presiding within the video.
Oh,
Things
cool,
like a person
awesome.
named Nexialist, which will appear before the player and then lead them into these dark, disturbing rooms before they
What?
message them videos and audio clips of like animals being slaughtered. And that's all disturbing in its own right. The idea that there's just a guy trolling around in the game that will just throw that stuff at you when you least expect it. But there's also evidence that supports the idea that Nexialist is just a troll who's doing it for fun and leading people into, rooms with goat heads and Satan pictures does seem like a troll. But what is creepy is how the game has become a hub for a sort of cyber stalking. There are people within the game, like Jimbly, who ask for your photograph and information so that he can then take it and plaster it all over the walls within the custom player-created worlds
Why?
inside the game. And while some of these are treated in jest as a sort of gang initiation for fun within this dead MMO, some of these are nude images of participants that had been stolen from their personal information. Or people posing or in spite stealing pictures from other people and then plastering them in the worlds as well. I mean, imagine if you knew that a compromising picture of yourself
that sucks.
was just on the wall in this abandoned video game. That combined with allegations of spyware and people in the game convincing other people to give them...
what? Dinky's grandkids. Dinky's daughters. Oh my god, what, dude, why are you playing this? How do you find out about this? I've never heard this before in my life. Who is going around, how do you find this kind of stuff? Is it just because it's a really common words that is then .com? It's like having Daniel.com. Do people stumble upon it by accident? They're like, ooh, a video game, let me sign up. And then eventually you just get doxxed.
Personal data so that they can follow them in real life. While I don't think there's a cult in Worlds.com, there's definitely a stalking ring. Or at least I should say there was, because in recent years, Worlds.com has become
shut down?
A sort of crypto, NFT,
VR. It went the way that everything goes eventually. It went onto the blockchain. No more doxing allowed, sorry. The only thing that you can steal is Bitcoin.
Whatever thing, which is...
Crypto saved us! Let's go!
In its own right, and in my opinion, much more terrifying. Similar in horror to Worlds.com, we have LostBoy.exe. LostBoy.exe originally made its way onto the message boards of 4chan. Upon loading the game, the player was dropped into a creepy sort of backrooms-esque maze where strange music would play and images of Satan could be seen on the walls around you. Although seemingly this game had no purpose as there was no real start, endpoint, or objective, and eventually the player would get tired and log off. It turns out that the game contained a rat, or a remote access Trojan. This allowed
yeah, of course, dude, of course. Like I said before, that other video game, that station.exe, why don't you just throw a Trojan horse on it? People are like, ooh, creepypasta game, how funny. They open it, it kind of sucks, you log off, and then bam, you're in their system, you got all their information.
Creator of the game to achieve his real purpose, which was stealing the personal information and webcam access of people who decided to download the game.
No.
This led to a slew of people not only losing their bank accounts, but having pictures of themselves randomly emailed to themselves and other people who played the game as well. The initial story for LostBoy.exe was that it was just a creepy game that had demonic imagery and was possessed by some kind of demon, when in the end it was a way that a real creep got a lot of people's real information. Now, some people have made versions
Oh, he just changed shirts. Well, that's a nice shirt though. I like
of
it.
the game that do not have the rat so that you can experience what the original game was, but never trust any of those because they're...
You can experience what the original game was? There are so many games. Xbox Game Pass, infinite games, so many games out there, free to play. There's Pokemon, Zelda, Halo, Bioshock, Mass Effect, Fallout. There is indie games, there's racing games, there's sports games. There's games of all different shapes and sizes from all different types of people showing you anything that you could possibly want to do in the world. Why the fuck are you downloading this?
There's no reason to risk it. So the horror of this game is that to even play it, you are putting your own data and information at risk, as well as your very
Just play
security
Sonic
through things like the camera on your computer. And you know, this all being delivered through demonic imagery and a never-ending maze, also not great. Berserk is an arcade cabinet that was developed in
Berserk? Like the manga?
1980 by Stern Electronics. The basic structure of the game is similar to other arcade games. You play as a guy with a gun who runs through a maze and shoots at the people who come for him, while avoiding the game's final boss, which is a smiling face known as Evil Otto. Now, a lot of you who have heard of Berserk are probably familiar with what makes the game so famous.
Okay, he reminds me of Koro-sensei from Assassination Classroom. I'm getting some manga vibes from this.
And that is the 3 deaths surrounding the game itself. On April
What?
the 3rd of 1982, a boy named Peter Bukowski died while playing Berserk. Or at
Blood
least,
clot?
that's how the legend goes. Supposedly, he was playing the Ark cabinet and became fully ingrained with it when he suddenly and abruptly died of a heart attack. Turns out, it is true that Peter Bukowski died in an arcade on April the 3rd of 1982, right after he got done playing a game of Berserk.
Okay, 18 is very young to die of a heart attack.
Now, it turns out that the real Peter Bukowski had cardiomyopathy, and his heart attack was a long time coming, and any kind of excitement could have set it off. However, this didn't stop the legends that it was the Berserk cabinet specifically that caused him to die.
Okay,
It's like the
dude.
story of a man who hit a score of 66,600 suddenly dying of a heart attack as well as a third death and second definitive death that did happen involving a Berserk cabinet. While it's not exactly sure where it happened, a lot of people say at the same one that Bukowski died in front of, a 17-year-old Edward Clark Jr. got into a fight over whose turn it was to play Berserk next. The person who Edward was fighting was kicked out of the arcade room, and a little while later, that same night, when Edward went to leave, he was met in the parking lot by the guy he got into a fight with and was stabbed to death.
Dude, why? It's not that good of a game. Like, it's really not. It's not like we're talking about Tears of the Kingdom here. It's not like we're talking about even Time Crisis. Doesn't even look like that good of a game. It's not. We're stabbing people over it. I swear to God, Americans will stab each other over Popeye's chicken sandwiches. Well, to be fair, it's not just Americans. I feel like anyone would do that because we're just deranged. Ending the life over Berserk? Not even Pac-Man?
Now, there's several legends regarding arcade cabinets, story of things like Polybius and whatnot, but at least Berserk has 2 definitive deaths connected to it. And while most just take this to be a fight that led to someone getting murdered and someone who was going to have a heart attack soon anyway, just so
Yeah, of
happened
course.
having one right after he got done with a game of Berserk, others have said that the flashing lights and the music and perhaps an unseen MK Ultra-esque element of the game causes people to develop health issues and lose their minds in fits of rage. Hence the title of the game, Berserk.
Okay, I feel like if that was the truth, that would have happened many more times. It wouldn't just be 2 instances of someone having a heart attack, even though they had pre-existing conditions that would lead them to have a heart attack, and one guy getting mad at an arcade and getting stabbed. I don't know, I feel like there'd be more to it than that.
Sad Satan was a game that originally appeared on the YouTube channel Obscure Horror Corner. Man, that channel was designed to make me mispronounce it. I slur my words so much. Anyway. In the 5-part series he uploaded, the player walks through these black and white, strangely backlit areas as, just as you're walking, random images of gore and demons and, most particularly disturbing, pedophiles will appear in front of you. This is all done while music is played backwards, intercut with children screaming. The game itself believed by many to be a sort of induction into a satanic cult. Hence the disturbing images and images of pedophiles or perhaps group members. There is something, admittedly, like as a guy who sees a ton of content that is shocking for shocking's sake, there's something really disturbing about seeing pedophiles intercut with just regular images of children. Like, yeah, sure, I've seen gore and blood and whatnot, but something about the true evil that's out there really gets to me. Now here's where the conspiracy sets into it. So, Obscure Horror Corner, I can't believe I pronounced that right twice, said that you shouldn't go looking for the original game files because it contains CP. Like, he was cutting it out in his playthrough, but randomly images of CP would pop up.
What? Wait, whoa! You downloaded a game that had that? Did he know it had that? Bro, he's gonna get a knock on the door. The FBI is gonna be on his ass.
Which, as awful as it is to say, makes sense considering that you see gore, you see pedophiles, you would think images like that may show up in this thing. So people began to look into the versions that Obscure Horror Corner had put out, and they couldn't download it because, if I recall correctly, it was something about the URL. The URL was messed up.
Why would you want to download it? Like, why? I don't, dude, please play anything. This morbid curiosity is getting too far. We need to be a less curious species. We need to tone it down a bit. Be more content with
some fun, normal, cool stuff that you can do. Play football, skateboard, play cool, normal game that you buy from Game Shop and put in your video game console or PC device. We don't have to go around. We don't have to look for the worst thing that you can possibly find. It's okay. You don't have to.
That it couldn't actually be a link from 4chan, which is where the game supposedly came from in the first place. So then another version came out that many believe Obscure Horror Corner made as a deflection, because this new version that came out definitely did contain CP, like you'd walk and it just appear in front of you. And people think that the YouTuber did it to prove that he was right about how disturbing this game could be.
No shot. No one is that insane. Surely not. Because you'd have to source it to put it in and then release it. Surely no one is that dumb just to prove that they were right. Like, no, it totally does have it in. Believe me, look, here, see? It has it, but you concocted it yourself in your laborious laboratory? What?
Really weird and convoluted. But interesting, and not enough people talk about it. Like, I've heard of Sad Satan a lot as being this ultra
Surely
disturbing,
not.
Video game or whatever. Not a lot of people talk about the fact that the really disturbing parts of it may have just been a cope so that people would believe him. Similar to Sad Satan, don't play this, not only because of the images you can see, but there are also several versions floating around that contain a Trojan virus, so leave it alone.
Obviously. Dude, if you download this, then I don't know what to tell you. You deserve to have a virus. Why would you do that? Especially when there are rumors around that it contains actual combat power in it, actual chess pieces, actual curriculum parts. Then you're like, oh, well, actually, I want to download this. No, well, what are you doing? No, you not only do you deserve to have a virus, you deserve to have the FBI on your door, MI5, whatever the other police services may be.
The YouTubers get the virus and lose all their life savings because, that's what I'm here for. And then finally for this tier, we have Schnell Online. Schnell Online comes from a 4chan post that was made in 2018. People on the board began to recognize the game as other screenshots of it had made their way online. From there, a dark rumor surfaced that
oh my god, I thought it was Undertale for a second. I looked at that screenshot and I was like, oh, that kind of reminds me of Undertale a little bit.
Online was in actuality a middle ground used by pedophiles to trade images of children.
Of
this
course.
game, in fact, being one of many that are accessed and kept secret on dark parts of the internet that allow users to speak to each other and communicate freely about their nefarious activities. Now, since then, gameplay has surfaced of Schnell.
I hope it's a sting operation.
Accuse that of being fake gameplay that was simply used to match the aesthetic of the disturbing game. And even if Schnell Online isn't real or is just some kind of internet creepypasta, it opens the idea that there may be an entire world of game development that only caters to the corrupt. And if all the dark corners of the internet that
there probably is
are just the ones that they don't care enough about to protect, then think of all the evil that we don't know about. And then finally,
oh yeah, there's definitely going to be some really, really messed up stuff out there, especially when you can't get this, if you want that kind of really horrific, terrible thing, and you're going to probably pay a lot of money for it, right? Oh god, I can't even imagine people paying a lot of money for game developers to create, I can't even finish the sentence, man. I just don't want to believe that it's real.
Last tier on the iceberg, with an entire layer all to itself.
Oh boy.
Last entry, Eric Harris, Doom Wads.
I have no idea what this is.
Doom was the original, popular first-person shooter. And being a game that was played by a lot of people, a lot of unsavory people played it as well. One of the most famous aspects of the original Doom that has kept it alive into the modern age is the modding capabilities of the platform. People can create WADs, which are effectively maps or tailored experiences that they can run on the Doom engine. So basically, anyone who knows how to build a map can build their own map and allow other people to play it. Robert Steinhauser, the perpetrator of the Erfurt School Massacre, created his own Doom WADs and played and shared them online. But perhaps no mod, or game for that matter, has ever been as sinister or infamous as the Doom WADs of Eric Harris. Eric Harris, as mentioned earlier, was one of the Columbine school shooters. Eric, as mentioned earlier in the Columbine Massacre RPG, was a big fan of Doom. He would make several different maps and share them online for other people to play. As a matter of fact, the majority of Eric Harris's Doom WADs are still available to download to this day. Now, while that would qualify it for the bottom of the list in its own right, that one of the shooters had created their own series of maps that people still play and pass around even now, The reason it's reserved at the bottom of the iceberg is because of a reference made in the Columbine school shooting report. In the FBI's report, which totaled over 10,000 pages, there's a reference made
Wow, that's
in one of
insane.
Eric's maps. According to the Columbine report, Eric made one map titled RealDoom.wad, which was a one-for-one recreation.
To clarify, the report does not name the map's title, simply that a Columbine map exists. In recent years, users believe the inaccessible RealDoom.wad to be the dreaded map. Oh, he made a map of the school? What, so that he could simulate running through it with guns? Jesus
Columbine
Christ.
High School. And according to the report, Eric populated the map with enemies and time again would practice his massacre of Columbine High. But seems that right there,
Oh,
at least
God.
according to the FBI's report, was a one-for-one recreation of the tragedy that he thought about day after day until he took the lives of so many innocent people. And a lot on this iceberg, we've talked about people fantasizing about murder or about doing vile actions, or there's been things that allow people to carry out vile actions. But here we have something that was solely created to fuel the mind of a killer that eventually did just that. And with that, we have the completion of the disturbing and controversial
Ooh,
video
jeez.
game Iceberg.
Wow, that started pretty lighthearted and it got crazy. Like, it got to a certain point where I was just like, oh man, this is making me feel really bad. But that's what it's supposed to do, right? It was supposed to make you feel like disturbed and put out. And oh man, Wendigo did a really good job making this video. Damn, I didn't know most of those stuff. I thought that I was so terminally online that I would know everything. I'd be like, oh yeah, I've heard of this stuff before. I'm a weirdo. I'm on the internet all the time. I'd heard of nothing. None of that until now. Woo! Well, that was crazy. That was pretty disturbing. If you're disturbed, let me know. If you want me to react to something, maybe a little bit more lighthearted, then you can suggest something in the Discord server, and I recommend you subscribe to Wendigoon. Do it right now. Links in the description. Thanks.